Hey guys, I'm Tim with BleepinJeep.com. In today's video, I'll be talking about my experiences with the Treadright tires I've had on my Jeep since April. It's taken me forever to get around to doing this tire review, which is kind of a good thing because I actually have a lot of real-world data to share with you guys. I've put about 6,000 or 7,000 miles on these tires and I've pretty much destroyed them. But before we get to the review, I want you guys to check out this clip that my friends at Think Creative put together. If you're not already familiar with Treadright tires, I'd really encourage you to take a look at the link in the video description below and check out the process for yourself. It's really quite interesting. Basically what these are is they are a remolded tire. They're recycled, but it's not just a new tread attached to any old sidewall. They actually are new sidewalls on both sides, inner and outer, and new tread, and they're called B2B remolds, from tire bead to tire bead. So if you're interested in that, take a look at their process and you can find that at the link below. While reading about these tires online through various forums, you find a lot of negative as well as positive. And one of the biggest negatives that I see is that people say tire shops won't bounce these tires because they're so out of round, they're so out of bounce that it can't be done, or shops won't do it because it's too dangerous to put on their machine. That has absolutely not been my case at all. Greg over at Rock and Road Performance, he bounced these tires for me and I was right there when he did it. All 5 of them bounced just fine and not one of them was unbounceable by any means. Some took a little more weight than others, but none of them took any more weight or did anything unusual more so than a name brand tire would do. They were just like a brand new BFG or whatever other tire you like as far as bouncing went. There wasn't any surprises there. So in my experience, I had no issue with bouncing all 5 of these tires whatsoever. As soon as the tires were mounted and bounced, they went right on the Jeep, and I drove straight from Loomis, California, where Rock and Road is located, to the middle of Utah, 700 miles, where I met up with Matt and Tyler for a Jeep trip we did earlier in the year. So right out of the gate, I got some good experience on these tires. One of the first things I noticed is road noise. Based on all the reading I did online about people's experiences with these tires and how noisy they are and the howl and this and that, I was really expecting them to be bad, and that's simply not the case. So we're doing 50 miles an hour right now on this country road, paved road, highway, and I'm just trying to show you the tire noise in the cab, windows up. There's not much. I can hear the tires, but honestly I'm not sure if you can. They're pretty quiet. This is 45, 50 miles an hour. Here in a second we'll be getting on the interstate and I'll show you what 70 miles an hour sounds like. Alright guys, so I'm on the interstate now. This is 70 miles per hour. And I gotta tell you, I can barely hear the tires. They might be making, I mean they do make some noise. Like I said, they're big mud terrain tires. So what do you expect? But it's absolutely reasonable and it's hardly any louder than a stock Cherokee would be, just regular wind noise. So they're really not bad at all. Now if you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I had some major body contact issues with these tires after putting the new axles underneath this Jeep and not setting up my bump stops correctly. So after arriving at the entrance to the hole in the rock trail, it took about, I don't know, maybe 2 miles of off-roading to realize that I had not set my bump stops properly, and I was smashing these tires into my fenders, front and back, as well as my front bumper. And that is where I really took a toll on these tires, was from body contact. So after wheeling into the trail about 26 miles or so the first day, I broke a Dana 44 shaft in the front because one of my U-joint caps started walking out, and it basically swung under and caught the ball joint and sheared both the inner and outer. For some reason it decided to blow up right then instead of I was in 4-wheel drive.
And we came upon them sideways in the trail.
In the road.
Yeah, halfway off the road. Yeah, now Tyler's duct taping everything together, so it's going to be primo. And then we're going to reassemble, and I won't have 4-wheel drive.
Gonna have 3-wheel drive.
I don't think I'll even have that because it's an open diff. But we'll see.
Yeah.
So I got too low.
Well, here's what we should do. Here's what we should do. We should link and lock your front diff
right now
with the battery weld. We got the welding rod. Then you can lock that hub and you'd have 3-wheel drive. Then you'll have to replace an axle shaft and a diff.
See, what I think is going to happen is I have Treadright tires on this Jeep. And since I have Treadright tires, they are so good and so sticky, and they're doing such a great job that I'll get out of here in 2-wheel drive. No problem.
Sponsor promo.
Yeah, check the description for links. So we had gotten to the location where I broke down all in 4-low, 26 miles in from the paved road, and now I just lost my 4-wheel drive capabilities because I don't have a locker in the front or rear. And so my only option was to drive out of there in 2-wheel drive with these tires, which I did. Thankfully I was with the group, as you always should be when you're going on a expedition trip like that in such a remote area, and there were numerous occasions where I had to be strapped and winched up some of the larger obstacles that were just simply impossible to get up. But I did try to do as many of them as I could in low range rear wheel drive, and I was actually very impressed with these tires under those circumstances on the slick rock that's out there. They gripped it surprisingly well. It was a lot of fun to try to push these tires to the limits and see what they could do. After the Hole in the Rock Trail, we drove to Moab, where I was able to find a new full-width axle shaft for my front Dana 44, and with some good help I was able to put that in at the La Quinta Inn parking lot there in Moab. One of my favorite shady trees to work under when my Jeep breaks now. So once I was fixing back on the road, we did a couple other trails, and the tires just continued to impress me on the rocks. I was not disappointed with their traction at all. I believe it was the Moab Rim Trail where we encountered some sand at the top, and all of us had some fun playing around there. Matt's Scorpion Crawler did really good climbing up the sand dunes, and I was just messing around a little bit. I could not quite get up it with the 33-inch tires, but I was very impressed that I was able to keep moving at all because it's far steeper than it looks in camera. And 4-low, I think I was second or third gear, basically pinned. I wasn't moving fast, but these tires, they just kept digging and excavating that sand, and I kept the forward momentum up a very steep angle. And that really surprised me, because out here in Oregon we have sand dunes, and basically once you lose your momentum like that, regardless of what tires, if you've lost your momentum and you're digging into the sand, it's over. And with these tires, maybe the sand's different out there or what, but aired up all the way, 35 psi, full throttle, they just kept on chugging. And yeah, I didn't get up the hill, but it was surprising that I was able to keep moving at all to me. So I was really impressed with that. And since slicing the tires within the first 1,000 miles or so they're on the Jeep, I've put about 6,000 or 7,000 total miles on them, and I haven't had any blowout, I haven't had any issues, but there are a couple little things that I'm going to take the camera out here and show you about these tires that have me slightly concerned, but I'm not really a tire expert and I don't really know if it's a big deal. But if I have any negatives to say about them, I want to be able to share that with you guys, so check this out. Alright, so this is my front left tire, my driver's side front, and there is a bulge right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's on the bottom side of the tire right here. This line actually comes out a little bit. I hope you can see it. It's not easy to see on camera. It's pretty minimal. Now I did have a gentleman contact me saying that it was extremely dangerous and this tire was ready to blow out at any given moment, and I really appreciate him taking the time and the concern for him to do that. And you know what, that very well could be the case. I am not a tire expert and I don't know. I also had people comment saying that it was no big deal, it's just where some pieces meet up in here and it's real common even on new tires. I talked to TreadWright about it. They basically said it could be any number of things and they didn't seem overly concerned about it. And I drive this Jeep on the interstate routinely at freeway speeds, and there's absolutely no vibrations, no bumps, nothing weird from it. It's just just a visual thing, and I didn't notice it when we first mounted the tires, but I did notice it as soon as I arrived at Tyler's place out in Utah, which was quite some time ago. So it hasn't gotten worse since then, but I think it did develop on the drive out, although I'm not completely sure. So this is my back left tire, and check this out. Look at that slash. That's some of the damage from Moab, where I was slamming up into my my fender here, up onto the body, and just slicing all the way through this, and it's not good at all. That goes all the way past the lugs, which are, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch deep, and you probably can't see in there, but it just keeps on going, and I am absolutely sure these are not safe to drive on. I would not condone my behavior to continue to drive these, but that's just where I'm at right now, and that's what I'm doing. Fully aware that if these tires blow out, it's definitely not TreadWright's fault. This is my fault completely from setting up my bump stops poorly and continuing to drive on them for, at this point, thousands of miles since I've done that. But that's a testament to the remold process. You know, there's 12-inch slashes through these tires in some places, and they are not separating whatsoever. They're actually holding up quite well. Now, something I really like about TreadWright is their tread designs in their off-road tires. They offer some designs that are not quite the same, probably due to copyright issues, I would imagine, but they're dang similar to some really popular tires that they don't make anymore. And the tires that I have, the Claw, to me, they're very reminiscent of the original BF Goodrich Mud Terrain, and that is one of my favorite tires. I had a set of 33s, maybe they were 32s on a Toyota pickup I used to have. Those were the best tires in the snow that I've ever had. Not for driving on icy roads, don't get me wrong, they sucked at that. But through wheeling in snow, driving in deep snow, that original BF Goodrich Mud Terrain did really good. Now, the tread compounds that TreadWright uses, the rubber compounds, I guess they're a little bit different, but you can read more about them on their website in the link below, as I had talked about. And I have taken out some pretty big chunks out of these tires, but I'm also running them a lot harder than I have run any of my other tires. I've had 3 sets of BF Goodrich tires. 2 of them were KM2s and one was the KM1. And I ran the KM1s fairly hard on my Toyota, but honestly that's not saying much because I could only run them hard in 4 low. And with the Jeep, it has a lot more power than my Toyota did, so in second gear I can spin these tires at 50-55 miles an hour with the manual transmission on dirt roads. So when I see chunking out of the tires like that, that isn't necessarily a problem with the tread. I'm really running these things hard and I'm spinning them fast, drifting around turns and stuff like you saw in that edit. So I'm not going to say that's a problem with the tires. It's just probably a driving behavior, and I have a feeling that if I had a brand new tire from a name brand competitor and I spun them just as fast, drove just as hard over the same rocks, I'd probably see similar results from a tire in this price point. Alright guys, that's basically going to be it for my TreadWright review. Do I recommend their tires? In my experience so far, yes, I do. But do your own research. You know, if that bulge up front concerns you, or if you want to leave a comment below, maybe TreadWright can get back to you and answer more specifically what they think it is. You know, I'm not going to bash them at all. I just don't know. I'm not a tire expert, like I said. But I can tell you that since after the Moab trip, I've aired them down quite a bit, and they really do perform well on the rocks, off-road, on dirt. They're really good. I'm certainly enjoying them, and I haven't had any major issues with them at all. You know, as far as like the tread separating from the carcass that it's molded to or anything like that. I haven't seen any indication of that at all. And I've put these tires through anything that they are likely to encounter. I've been able to do it with the exception of icy roads, just because it's not winter time yet. But I've really beaten these things up, and I've destroyed them right out of the gate in Moab by slicing them that deep, and they're still holding up. I have not rebounced them since taking chunks out of the lugs and missing rubber and stuff, so I'm sure they're a little out of bounds, but even so, I can roll down the interstate 65, 70 plus miles an hour, no problem. I am happy to have these TreadWrights on my Jeep, and I will certainly consider another set in the future. and I'm looking forward to running these tires a little bit longer and just to test them further. And if one of them explodes and it's not due to my deep carcass slashes that are pre-existing, you guys are definitely going to know about it. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next video.